The federal election campaign has hit the halfway mark, with Labor pledging $3 billion to help parents with the rising costs of childcare. It's aimed at hip pockets in marginal seats, but the coalition says it's another unfunded promise. Here's political editor Chris Ullman.
Oh, they're very good to come out today.
A small piece of nation building.
And he's got your flag for you.
That's very good.
Bill Shorten's assembling the building blocks of Labor's childcare pitch.
It's not just a women's issue, it's a government issue, it's a business issue.
Labor is pledging $3 billion over 4 years to lift the income-tested childcare benefit and to raise the cap on the childcare rebate, which pays up to half of out-of-pocket costs.
We are talking about investing in the development of our children in their very early years, and we're talking about investing in the Australian economy.
Mr. President,
the Coalition's childcare plan has stalled as it waits on the Senate to pass $3 billion in family benefit tax cuts to pay for it.
They've spent $3 billion without having the faintest clue where that money is coming from.
Let's go.
Childcare matters in this campaign because it's aimed at the hip pocket nerve of parents in frontline seats. Education Department figures show there are more than 6,000 families receiving the childcare rebate in the ultra-marginal Queensland seat of Petrie. There are 30,000 more in the nearby marginals of Bonner, Brisbane, Ford and Griffith. In New South Wales, it's the Western Sydney electorates that stand out. There are 26,500 families receiving childcare rebates in Banks, Macarthur, Parramatta and Lindsay. The halfway point of this campaign has passed and the battle will intensify from here as the first ballots will be cast in pre-poll voting in just 9 days' time. There was an awkward collision of opposing camps today.
welcome to Melbourne. Thank you.
As election hostilities pause for the leaders to mark the centenary of the Returned and Services League. Lest we forget that this campaign should be about who's best able to unite the nation. Chris Ullman, ABC News, Canberra.
Now, for the second in our series of ABC Victoria election specials, Ian Henderson is in Geelong. Hendo, I hope you're keeping dry out there.
Thanks, Tam. Probably not quite as warm and dry as you in the studio, but we are here for a good reason. Geelong's busy port behind us here gives us a convenient metaphor for the challenges and opportunities facing the broader Victorian economy as we prepare to vote on July the 2nd. Again tonight, Tam, we'll be leaving the politicians out of it and concentrating instead on some of the issues on which votes will turn. And front and centre this week is the big issue of jobs.
We've heard the mantra jobs and growth from the Prime Minister throughout this campaign, but what does that mean for Victorians?
In a word, Tam, I think it means change. Yesterday's jobs are no longer today's or tomorrow's jobs. Just ask the people who used to work at Ford Geelong or the Point Henry aluminium smelter. Victoria's traditional heavy industries are falling prey to global forces, and the regions are experiencing a big shift towards services, health and education. Times are changing and industry and education leaders have some clear messages for whoever wins the election. Cameron Best has our first report tonight.
It's early morning in Portland, but already the ships are busy loading up their exports. Millions of tonnes of forest products, aluminium, grain and mineral sands flow through this industrial hub. But the landscape is changing, and with it, the local economy and employment. 6 months ago, this wind tower manufacturer stood idle after former Prime Minister Tony Abbott's ban on wind farm investment. Now, under a new clean energy mandate, hundreds of workers are again making towers for a project near Ararat.
We in manufacturing, especially manufacturing, are under enormous threat all the time from imports. And in what we do here, you take this project, half of it's coming in from Vietnam, and realistically that's our jobs. And we need our government to start putting mandates on for local content and local supply.
Steve Garner is frustrated that his business is hostage to mercurial politics. He wants a long-term vision that encourages homegrown skills and production.
Buy the technology, bring it into Australia and actually start manufacturing it. There's a lot of jobs that come with it.
The renewables industry is upbeat about the number of jobs that could be generated by government targets to reduce carbon emissions. But that's of little comfort for the thousands of people who rely on Alcoa's aluminium smelter here in Portland as the economic mainstay of the region.
Yeah, well, the smelter does mean a lot to us. We'd be stonkered without it.
Low aluminium prices and a wrangle over power subsidies could spell the end for Victoria's last remaining smelter and the jobs of hundreds of locals. Joy Davis was Portland's mayor in the 1970s.
I'm just wondering where Mr Malcolm Turnbull thinks he's going to get all these jobs with his jobs and, what's he saying, growth and jobs? No, jobs and growth, Mr Jobs and Growth.
We can't grow without jobs, and if the
where's he going to find jobs here without putting it into wind farms or something like that?
Not many jobs left at Williamstown shipyard either, as it slips into the so-called Valley of Death without government contracts on the horizon. But the defence manufacturing outlook for Victoria is much brighter in Bendigo.
I think there is a bright future, but I think we're going to go through a bit of a tough spot, certainly a tough spot as the automotive sector comes off. But hopefully that will be relatively quickly followed by companies like ours that are coming through and with that modern approach to manufacturing in Australia. 300
workers, plus many more down the supply chain, are building the Army's Bushmaster and Hawkeye vehicles.
Here in Victoria we've got skills, capabilities that are actually globally competitive and even, I would say, unique in the world.
Victoria may have missed out on the lucrative submarine contract, but Chris Jenkins says there are still opportunities.
The components that will go into the submarine, that's a national effort. Not all of those things exist in South Australia. Many of them exist in Victoria, for sure.
Victoria's export focus is becoming increasingly high-tech. Geelong carbon fibre wheel maker Carbon Revolution is the go-to place for politicians on the campaign trail.
So we do have a unique opportunity here, and I think it is the face of manufacturing in the future in this country. One thing that it needs, though, is capital to be put behind it and people to be willing to put funding behind these sort of ventures.
Geelong no longer relies on old manufacturing. Health, education and the rapidly growing services sector are leading the transition as new skills move into town.
I think it's a great benefit to the local community that the NDIS and WorkSafe are moving into the region as well. And when we were making the decision about moving down to Geelong, it was a difficult one for my husband, but he was able to find work really quickly within the health services industry, which is fantastic.
Meanwhile, the engineers who helped build Victoria want more emphasis on catering for a growing population.
The big commitment that we're focused on is that we want to see long-term planning for infrastructure. We think that governments need to remind themselves all the time that they should think about the next generation, not the next election.
Work starts for whoever gets the job on July 2nd. Cameron Best, ABC News.
Well, as Cam mentioned there, this region has already had a lot of adjusting to do. Alcoa's Port Henry smelter closed in 2014, and in just 4 months' time, Ford's last Australian-made car will roll off its Geelong production lines. So how have people who've lost jobs at those companies managed to reinvent themselves? Let's meet a few of them.
My name is Mohammed Khadiva and I used to work for Ford for almost 27 years. Since August 2015, I officially started as a PSO in Victoria Police. I went through the initial training at the academy.
Do you need any help? You guys need any help? No, that's all good?
It has always been my passion to work with the community, and it's exactly what I wanted. My advice to those people that try to find a job, try to get yourself skilled in those jobs, have a positive mindset, don't be afraid of trying new things.
My name's Nicole McCoy. I've been working for Ford for 26 years. Hi Hannah. I thought that I would always be a manufacturing employee. When they did announce the closure, I was quite sad about it, obviously. We had some representation come down from our product development area, and after that I started looking on the jobs online that we have and found that there were a couple that I would like to apply for. Oh, there's a big future for Ford. It may not be in manufacturing, which is a sad thing to see it go. However, with the new technologies, product development is fast growing. It's always looking for new engineers. I just wonder whether or not we should do that rather than that. I believe that education is important for the future of the country. We are probably caught up in this short-term politics and nothing long-term, even though they speak of long-term actions.
Hi, my name's Nick DiGiorgio and I was at Ford for 25 and a half years and I was a team leader in the stamping plant. People weren't buying Australian-made cars anymore, they were just buying overseas cars and it just wasn't viable. I opted to buy into a courier franchise. It is a busy day for me, but it's opened my eyes up to all the little manufacturing and all the little warehouses around in Geelong. That's what keeps this country going, locally made stuff. The small businesses we've got to look after at the moment because they're the ones that are driving the country at the moment. People might not think that, but when you do this job and you see everybody out there's a small business, they're working so hard. Oh, I'll just get you to sign on the bottom there, thanks. The future for my children, that's what's going to influence me, what they can offer them. Schooling, the best schooling they can have.
My name's Damien Young. I was employed by Alcoa for 14 years, so I've gone from heavy industry into doing retail. My wife's been in retail before. We've sort of partnered up together and it's gone well. All the kids that I used to play with, muck around with, their dads worked at Ford's and Alcoa, and a lot of them then went and worked at Ford's and Alcoa. So that's not going to happen for my children. It's come to Dad. A lot of guys have got work, but they haven't got jobs. So there's a difference. You can't just walk in from driving cranes and working in a smelter. They're not guaranteed long-term work. I'm predominantly been a Labor voter over my whole working career, but now I haven't decided either way. So I need to see what benefits I have as a small business owner. The month ahead's got to be a telling tale on how I go about voting. Obviously there'll be more promises made over the next month, so I'll be keeping my eye on that.
Well, finding a new job after the old one ends up on the scrap heap is certainly a big challenge, but let's consider now what lies ahead for those yet to choose a career path. Earlier this week, we were treated to a glimpse of the future at Deakin University in Geelong. It's the home of the Institute for Intelligent Systems Research and Innovation. It's one of the few places in the world where the seed of an idea can grow into a brand new business all in the one place. Already, as we found, scientists are making useful things that are earning export dollars right now. I spent some time with two enthusiastic innovators, microtechnologist Dr. Alexandra Sooty and University Vice-Chancellor Jane Den Hollander. Well, Vice-Chancellor, here we are in the heart of the enterprise. How does research like this translate into the jobs of the future?
Well, the jobs of the future are things we don't know. What we do know is that science and engineering, science and health, engineering and health are where the jobs of the future will be.
A lot of people are worried that a robot like this is going to actually take their job, not enable jobs. Have they anything to worry about, really?
My view is no. Surely there are many jobs that are going. Think back 6 years. Who had thought of an app? There are 100,000 app developers in Australia now, and we as a university are educating people to do app development. So let's go forward 6 years. Of course, there are going to be smart machines like this and the many things you've just shown. Those jobs are a combination of solving the problems, the innovation of the future.
Alessandra, you work in microtechnology. Can you give us an example of how what you do here in this lab helps the Victorian economy?
This machine is now a manufacturing plant that allows the Geelong community to produce state-of-the-art materials. I'll give you an example of the applications of the materials. They give particular functionality that might be special.
Okay.
If you trust me,
let's have a look.
Let's have a look.
Go
Don't
to town.
fear.
Oh, amazing.
Hopefully you're not going to get wet.
So it totally repels water?
It totally repels water. This is just one of the application areas where our fibres can actually provide an improvement in existing technology or provide new and novel functionalities that we can't even dream of today.
I was going to ask you that. How important is it to have the scientific freedom to pursue an idea like that, even if at the start there's no obvious commercial application?
This was a crazy idea a few years ago, and being able to pursue my idea and try and test new applications is critical to the establishment of very otherwise risky platforms and technological platforms and new manufacturing opportunities. This is going to be a massive manufacturing opportunity for Geelong and for other areas that we can't even envisage today.
There's a bit of concern at the moment that not enough Australian students are involving themselves in mathematics and pure science, as you have done. How do we get them involved?
First of all, education is the platform to grow a new society. And science is just fun. When you get to it, science is fun. We know primary school kids love science, everything to do with scientific experimentation, but then they drop off. We need a lot more focus on teaching science in a fun way, in a more effective way. We need more teachers that can translate those concepts. We need better teachers. And most importantly, we need girls to stick to their guns and keep going on science and stay connected with science. Science is everywhere around us, so why not?
So Jane, where are we now?
The industry of the future. Carbon fibre plant where we take plastic, we carbonise it, burn it to 1/10 the width of a human hair, 10 times stronger than steel, 1/3 the weight of steel. Lightweighting, emissions, using less energy are the jobs of the future.
We vote soon. What do innovators and educators want as their policy priorities?
People like us, a university working with industry, we want some certainty about what the future is. What is the long-term innovation policy? That's the number one thing I think we all want. What I would like as a Vice-Chancellor educating the next generation is the NBN much faster to the whole of Australia. And then thirdly, we want great infrastructure. We want Carbon Revolution to get its wheels across the Westgate Bridge and onto a plane without the traffic jam. I'd like an international airport at Geelong. We have one, but it's not international. So students can get here quicker. That's what we need. We need some infrastructure certainty.
We have a 3-year political process here in Australia. Is that a help or a hindrance?
Well, I think the community is a bit intolerant. We often say no to things before they've even been discussed. We need to be more respectful of the democracy, but our leaders need to have courage not to blink. I'm sure governing is one of the most impossible tasks these days, but that's why we elect them for the long term. Give us a view that will make us the best we can be in the world, because Australia lives in a very competitive global economy.
Jane, thank you very much.
Thank you, it's been a privilege.
Jane Den Hollander there. And Tam, it's worth noting that international education is Victoria's biggest export earner and underpins a good portion of the state's growth. Deakin Uni itself created 200 new jobs just last year.
So the message is clear to students anyway: study hard at school for the jobs of the future.
Well, certainly study hard, Tam, but also, I suppose, dare to dream, which conveniently brings us to the subject of our third election special on Sunday week. We'll be taking a closer look at the issues that matter to young Victorians. Till then, back to you in that nice warm studio, Tam.
Thanks, Endo.